Thank you. Thanks so much. Thank you. Good morning. Never too early for a Guinness at Cool Hands Irish Pub. Well, I think you all know here that we're joined by our Surgeon General, Dr. Joseph Ladapo. We're also going to hear from Mary Jane, and we have the other sisters here, so thank you all for hosting us. We have Tia Bess, who's going to also speak with us. Jason Cullum from Christ Church in Jacksonville is with us and going to speak. We have Representatives Michael and Black with us, state reps, so thank you guys. And then we're going to hear from Lindsay, who's a mother from Volusia County, and she has a story to tell. So I want to thank everybody for being here. You think that they just won't try anything new again, and then they always try to figure something out. And so in the state of Florida, we've ensured that this is a free state, and we've worked very hard to do that. And there was a lot of hysteria. There's a lot of things that were done over many years with respect to the COVID-19. Of course, we really wanted to lift people up, and you look at places like Cool Hands has now done very well as a result of that. But that was what we did in Florida, cutting against the grain of the elites. It was cutting against what a lot of the, quote, experts were saying, the bureaucrats, both White Houses of the last two administrations, the media, and we stood for people's children and businesses and ability to earn a living, the ability to decline taking a COVID vax if you don't want to do that. And so all these things were very, very important. And, we took a lot of flack during that period, but then as we started going on, you saw so many people move to Florida, visit Florida, all this stuff, saw our economy, our education, everything do very, very well. And then so people act like, oh no, we didn't oppose the kids being in school, even though they sued me to try to close the schools. They now say all this stuff, and so they were wrong about all that stuff. But what we saw, though, even coming out of that for a year and a half, was if you give these people an inch, they will take a mile. And so in Florida, not only did we stand in the fight when it was happening, but we've enacted permanent protections against these policies now and in the future for Floridians, and that is really, really important. And so you as a parent can send your kid to school, and the school can't force them to wear a muzzle all day. They're allowed to breathe. You also have a right as a Floridian to earn a living regardless of whether you want to take the latest COVID-19 booster shot or not. They can't make you do it in Florida. Same thing, we provided protections for businesses against local governments. When local governments were doing things back in 2020, I issued a blanket pardon for all the fines and fees that local governments were imposing on individuals and businesses. We were proud that we were able to do that, so we've protected that. We have in the state of Florida, and I think we're the only state that has banned gain-of-function research, and so we're not doing that here. We've also protected the rights of physicians to be able to treat their patients according to their best judgment. We're not going to be like California and having physicians be penalized just because they're dissenting from the accepted narrative, because as we saw during COVID, that narrative was wrong, and yet some physicians came under fire. So we've provided those protections for that, and we're really, really excited to have been able to do that. So that's great. But when we did all that stuff, people were saying, oh, this is over, they're not gonna do this again. And first of all, I know these people. I know what they will do. I knew that they would try to do. So now we're in a situation where you start to see around the country Kids being kept out of school, like Kentucky had a school closure over COVID. You have forced masking of school children in different states around this country. You have colleges imposing booster shot mandates on college students, still going on in this country. You have people like Dr. Fauci who are still trying to defend mask mandates and lockdowns even after we've seen all this evidence. You also see how they're treating healthcare workers. They even did in Maryland, there was a school district that had the KN95 mask required for school children, sitting there all day doing this. And so they are trying to do this again, and what we in the state of Florida will say is, no, we are not letting you get away with it again. And it's troubling to see, you know, what's starting in some of these other parts of the country because we have the evidence is in on this stuff, okay? They did clinical trials about cloth masks. They have never produced a randomized clinical trial showing that cloth masks work. That's just the fact. That's just the reality. And yet to try to force a 6-year-old to have to wear this mask all day in some jurisdictions around this country, you know, that's a disgrace. Forcing healthy college students to take mRNA COVID booster shots when we know the data on this, these booster shots is the efficacy is probably negative. Joe can talk a little bit about that. And you have side effects, especially with the young healthy people. Why would they be mandating this? And incidentally, universities like Harvard, they don't mandate the faculty take the booster shots, just the students. You've got to be kidding me. And so we see all this stuff, and we see that they are not following the science. They are trying to follow a narrative. They are trying to follow an agenda. I can tell you here in Florida, we did not and we will not allow the dystopian visions of paranoid hypochondriacs control our health policies, let alone our state. So we, I think, face an important part, a test in this country about whether we're going to respect people's abilities to navigate life for themselves, or whether we're going to allow jurisdictions around the country to impose things that are not scientific, will not work, and will produce a lot of harm. You'd think that people would have learned their lesson. They haven't. And I think the root of this, why you're seeing this pop up again, is because nobody's been held accountable who were the architects of these policies to begin with, starting back in March of 2020, with people like Dr. Fauci, the CDC, the FDA, all these different agencies that failed and that lied to the American people. And they did lie on so many different things, ranging from lockdowns to school closures, to mask mandates, to COVID shots, all these different things. Nobody's been held accountable. And one of the things I've been preaching is we need to have accountability, because otherwise they're going to continue to try to get away with it. So once you bring accountability, that's when you ensure this never happens to our country again. So I just want to thank the members of the legislature for stepping up over the last year or two to enact these protections for Floridians. You have a civil right in Florida now to breathe fresh air. No one can force you to muzzle yourself against your consent. And as much as I think it doesn't work, I mean, some people choose, like, look, it is what it is, but nobody can force you to do it, whether you're coming to a restaurant, whether you're going to a government building, universities, none of that stuff. So that's really important. Our school kids are going to be able to learn in a productive environment because of the protections we've done. We have done protections for people so they don't lose their jobs based on vax mandates that we've seen some of the companies try to do and are still doing in other parts of the country. And that's been very meaningful for tens of thousands of Floridians. We're also the only state that has pursued an investigation into the adverse effects of COVID-19 shots, particularly these booster shots. So there's a statewide grand jury that's impaneled right now, and look, it's secret, so I don't know what's going on, but it's looking into all the misrepresentations, everything that they told us about all this, and how that didn't end up becoming true, and how they haven't been honest about how this has actually affected people in the real world. So we're happy to take that leadership role. You know, I was hoping we wouldn't have to be here sounding the alarm on things like this, but you know, this is just, they think that they did the right thing with all these lockdown policies. That's the scary thing. After watching how all this has unfolded, after seeing how people have flooded into this state in Florida and left those lockdown jurisdictions, and how some of these cities have just decayed. You know, San Francisco, there's a lot of problems there, don't get me wrong, but a lot of the real serious downward descent started when they locked down all the businesses for months and months and months, and a lot of those businesses went out of business, kids were locked out of school, and yes, the crime and all that really started to take off, but this was an important factor in seeing how that city has descended, and I think you've seen that in other parts of the country, so we cannot let this happen to our country again. Florida's the bulwark, we're standing strong. We're going to make sure that people, that this remains a free state. And it's not just me saying that. It's not just me promising that. We've delivered the protections that guarantee that for each and every Floridian. Okay, well, we're going to hear from some folks, and I look forward to hearing. So first, we're going to hear from Dr. Joseph Ladapo.
Hello, everyone. Hey, I'm going to take a look. I just want to make sure I have this right. Okay, mandate freedom. So the governor chose that. He made that choice to have that sign in front here, and it's a reflection of what inspired so many people to follow him. You know, during the re-election, the enormous victory that he had here. And during the times before then, right, you literally, how can it be that every news station and every medical expert, my colleagues on television, MDs, PhDs, are saying something totally different from what he's saying in the middle of a pandemic? How do you trust one guy who's saying something completely different from all these incredibly educated, years of school, publication scientists? How could you do that? Well, this is why people did it, right? Because there is something within all of us that resonates with freedom. And that something is part of our connection to God and our connection to every single thing around us, including each and every one of us. And that... And that, you know, I'm like, really, he deserves the claps, because that, because that the way that resonated with all of the people, so many Floridians who decided to trust a governor who went to law school, Harvard, but you know, it wasn't medical school, it was law school, it was Harvard, but who decided to trust that man instead of all these PhDs and MDs, right, on 24/7, the news, the television. We were blanketed with it during the height of the pandemic. And people said, you know, I hear what they're saying, but what he's saying feels right. And it's because of that connection that the governor activated, because of his own connection to that freedom, to the fact that is part of our core and part of our connection. And unfortunately, you know, the governor talked about them, there are these forces out there who are relentless, and they really are relentless. It's not that they were ever done trying, and they're not done now. They are relentless. relentless with every breath that they take. They are thinking about how they can control you. To what ends, only God knows, but it's nothing pretty, right? They're thinking about that, and they're relentless in their opportunities and the way that they take any opportunity that they face to try and go down that path to control you, to control your behavior, to fill you with whatever emotions they think are needed to achieve that goal. Fear happens to be one that unfortunately many of us are susceptible to. And that's the reality. And it's, we've talked about it. We're here talking about it now. We'll be talking about it again. What's the opportunity? What's the inlet? Most recently, the cases are rising, or it's talk about RSV, which is definitely a serious virus, right? It's something that we need to think about. This is why one of the things I and other people have done has been to emphasize how important it is to take care of yourself, right? To exercise, to put good nutrition in your body, as close to the earth as possible, vegetables, fruits, to get sunlight, vitamin D. But these are important things. But these people who want to control your behavior, they want to control all of our behavior, to what ends? Again, nothing pretty at the end of that road. That's one of the avenues that they take. So the governor's connection to freedom is the reason why so many people followed him instead of all my colleagues on television and in newspapers. And it's special. It's really our lifeline because this battle, this journey that we're on, continues, and it's something that I'm happy that the governor is so innately connected with. So mandate freedom, right? Mandate freedom. It's the Florida way. It's the DeSantis way. It's the way for all of us, right? Especially when we're really in touch with who we are and our connection to God and everything around us, including each and every one of us here. So I'll mention for a moment some of the things that we're doing in the Department of Health. As we all know, there's a new vaccine that's coming around the corner, a new mRNA COVID-19 vaccine, and there's essentially no evidence for it. There's been no clinical trial done in human beings showing that it benefits people. There's been no clinical trial showing that it is a safe product for people. And not only that, but then there are a lot of red flags. So something that you don't hear much about, but we'll be talking more about, is that there are multiple studies now from around the world, Brazil, I think Australia, United States, that show that over time, these vaccines, these mRNA COVID-19 products, actually increase your chances of contracting COVID-19. That's not normal. And unfortunately, you're going to have people who are going to get on television and try to explain why you should be comfortable with that. You should be comfortable with taking a product that ultimately, like its predecessors, increases your chance of contracting something. And it's going to be another one of these moments. It's going to be another DeSantis moment where you're going to have to remember remember that experience of hearing these very educated people telling you what you should think, but then listening inside to what makes sense, right? What feels right? What feels like truth? Like what has that feeling and that resonance of truth, that clarity of truth? Like we all know it when we feel it inside. And some of us know it more readily than others, and it's because we're all in different points in our spiritual journeys. But we all have that connection at some level. And when they try to convince you to be comfortable and agree with things that don't feel comfortable and don't feel like things you should agree with, that is a sign, right? That's a gift. That's something that we're endowed with from our Creator, right? And I encourage you, and certainly beg and hope that you do listen to it, because it will serve you right. Other problems that we're seeing that we'll be talking about when we hear from the CDC and the FDA about these new mRNA COVID-19 vaccines include the fact that they actually cause cardiac injury in many people. And the magnitude of that cardiac injury, it's beyond cardiomyocarditis that leads to hospitalization. We call it subclinical myocarditis. Its clinical significance is really unknown. I mean, in a perfect world, hopefully it won't be a big deal, but we don't know. And it's unsafe and it's truly irresponsible for FDA, CDC, and others to be championing something like that when we don't know the implications of it. It's probably on the order of somewhere between 3 and 5 and 100 people that have evidence of this. Maybe it's even higher. It's just completely irresponsible to be pushing something like that. And then I think just a few weeks ago, a new study came out that showed that spike protein, that harmless spike protein, as the CDC declared, in some people it appears to be floating around your body for months. There was a recent study that showed that it was detectable 6 months later in some people. Does that feel like something that feels right? You take a product today and like months later it's still floating around your body. If it doesn't feel right to you, I think that's good, because it's not right. And you have sovereignty over your body and what you put in it, and you have intuition about what the right thing is, or the difference at least between right and wrong. So great to see you all here today, and God bless you all. Love you all.
Like Joe's talking about, they're rushing these new mRNA COVID vaccines. They're not even doing the trials necessary, and the FDA and CDC, they've basically become an arm of big pharma. And so this is a way, pharma will make more money if this thing is approved, and then they start pushing it on everybody, but that's not what should drive health decisions, how much money goes to big pharma. It should be what's best for the American people. And that's why the medical swamp needs to be cleared out up in Washington, D.C., and you need to start telling the truth here. All right, Mary Jane Coolhan.
Thank you. I'm Mary Jane Culhan. I'm one of the owners of Culhan's Irish Pub. We have 2 restaurants and also a new business that came into fruition 2019 by Sister Spirit Vodka. I want to say thank you to Anya, Linda, Michelle, Jacob. I got a lot of family and management here today, and Ed and Kyle. We're just living the dream, and thank God we picked Florida to be our home of business. Thank you. I came to this country 28 years ago, a young girl from Ireland with a big dream, love America, love what it's give us this opportunity to have our own business. And not only did we survive the worst pandemic in the world or in history, we are thriving today because of Governor DeSantis' leadership. When the pandemic happened, believe it or not, it was St. Patrick's Day 3 years ago at 5 o'clock. We were told to shut the doors. It was horrific. The fear, the unknown. But after a few weeks, we got word that DeSantis was going to give us occupancy, meaning we could open up slowly and gradually, and that allowed us to be open and to keep our employees in business as well and be able to take care of our families. We're 4 sisters, but we also have kids to take care of, livelihoods, and we put every dollar into this business. We actually purchased this building right before the pandemic, and that was the scariest thing because that was our homes on the line. And but thank you, DeSantis, for saving our livelihoods and our families. And thank God that we have a great leader just to keep us going through this, journey. Other than that, I'm just excited that we're all here and that we're thriving, and business can only get better under DeSantis' leadership. So again, thank you all.
Yeah, during this whole time, people like Fauci, they hated restaurants. They didn't think anyone should be able to eat in a restaurant, and I'm just thinking to myself, first of all, it wasn't true that somehow restaurants were so bad. Like, that's what they said, but Florida showed, as these people got on their feet and were doing, it was fine, right? But people can make a decision about whether they want to go or not go. But I mean, we had for months, May of 2020, summer of 2020, fall of 2020, even January of 2021, I was getting hit by the White House task force under Trump. This wasn't even Biden, this was Trump. January of 2021, weeks before he left office, they were sending us missives to Florida saying impose a mask mandate and close bars and restaurants and businesses. And that's what they were pushing. And that was pretty much uniform throughout the political and bureaucratic sphere. And it was driven by people like Fauci with no regard for what that would mean for people's livelihoods. And so, we had to be the one to stand in the breach on that. And I just look at like somebody, like a Fauci, part of the problem with our country is that bureaucrats like him have been coddled. They've been put on a pedestal. I think the way you treat bureaucrats like Fauci is you tell them you're fired, get lost. That's what you need to be doing. Okay, Tia Bess.
Hey, y'all. Hey, Ron. Okay, my name is Tia Bess, the National Director of Engagement with Moms for Liberty. Thank you. I am unmasked, unvaccinated, and unapologetic. I'm here to say right now that we the people need to stand up, and we are going to stand up. I started out right here in Duval County fighting for this little guy. In 2019, he could only speak 10 words. That's it. My 5-year-old relied heavy on reading lips because he was speech and hearing delayed and on the autism spectrum. I knew that I had to become empowered, educated, and proactive. Before COVID, he was not speaking. Amir, come here, speak loud. You want to tell the joke?
Yes. What do you call a sand and what do you call a witch that is covered in sand?
What?
You call it a sandwich.
That is why I fight for my son. He only became verbal after attending occupational therapy and speech therapy and ABA therapy in our home. Because he had to mask, we were unable to go out to receive services. It was the courageous women who came into our home to provide services, and they did not comply. Thank you. Everywhere I went in Duval County, I had to stop and explain why my son wasn't able to wear a mask. I have a trespassing warning at Walmart, the neighborhood Walmart, for getting milk because my son and I are not wearing a mask and we will not comply. It was during the masking where our school board defied the governor's orders. Joe Biden encouraged the school board to defy that order as well. Former Mayor Lenny Curry extended the mandates every 30 days. What about special needs kids? Who's standing up for these kids? Why aren't we taking those arrows? I started to use a lot of common sense. Why can Nancy Pelosi get her hair done, but my son can't play at the playground? That does not make sense to me. No. Why is the NFL and the NBA on TV insulting our intelligence, but our kids cannot have social interactions? No. We are tired of the lies and the manipulations and the control of the government. My son deserves a seat at the table. I will stand up and I will take that seat. And I will take those arrows from my son and anybody else's child. Now, here's the good part. One of those arrows is right here in Duval County. Former school board member Elizabeth Anderson. Hey, Liz. Referred to me and my son as a token because I am standing up for my son. My parental involvement knows no skin color. And because of that comment, that racial slur, she lost her seat to school board member April Carney. So as I tell you today, it takes one person. Stand up, be brave. We are the same family that stood up and took it to court that we were not going to mask. We sued the Duval County School Board and we'll do it again. I don't need to worry about no science. I have the Tuskegee experiment of 1932 that was done to my people, and I'm going to stand up and not let history repeat itself. The good folks of the rural communities, Clay Hill, Middleburg, Keystone, Stark, Lottie, we're not going to comply. Read my lips, Joe. This mama says no. And as I close, let me quote the words of Jason Aldean. Try that in a small town.
All right. Well, someone ate their Wheaties this morning. All right, so from Volusia County, joining us is Lindsay to tell her story.
I wasn't going to say my last name because I'm in fear of being attacked. But my name is Lindsay Briones. I'm 34 years old. I'm a wife, a mom, and a friend. I was a corporate employee and I was pursuing a degree in nursing. I was actively involved in my community, which I loved, Deltona, Florida. I rescued dogs, cats, and an entire assortment of animals. I've even been featured on the Dodo 5 times. I was living my best life, the true American dream. In August of 2021, I took one Pfizer COVID-19 shot at a local COVID vaccine clinic. Within a few hours, my heart began racing so fast I couldn't catch my breath, and I was as red as a lobster with hives covering my entire body. I went to a local hospital where I was told I was having a severe reaction to the vaccine as well as SVT. And for those who don't know what that is, it's supraventricular tachycardia, which can be very debilitating at times. As the days went by, I went through a battery of tests with cardiologists and electrophysiology specialists. My cardiologist urged me do not get a second vaccine because he does not know what is in it. Within a 4-month period of time, I went into ventricular tachycardia 7 times and ventricular fibrillation 1 time, which resulted in a defibrillator being surgically placed in my chest to essentially keep me alive in the event I go into sudden cardiac arrest. Again, I am 35 now. I was 34. Now, 2 long years later, my red blood cells are exploding. My vessels are exploding, causing strange marks across various parts of my body. I have one on my face, all over my trunk. My D-dimer is at a 400%. My hematologist can't identify the name for this new symptom or the reason why my D-dimer is that high or why my blood cells are exploding. I have extreme headaches that are debilitating at times. I cannot function. I cannot function as I have a stroke-like symptoms without the stroke. I am in SVT every single day, lasting anywhere from 30 seconds to several hours. I am currently in SVT right now. Do you know how exhausting this is? Do you know what it's like being given adenosine? It's a medication that makes you feel like you're dying as it restarts your heart rhythm. My heart rate goes as high as 238 beats per minute. I will go through at least 4 AICD devices in my chest by the time I am 85, if I even make it. Each device costs $350,000. That does not include the cost of the hospital stay, the physician cost from numerous doctors, nor anything else associated with the illness caused by this vaccine. Again, I only took one. This is a lifelong battle. I am exhausted. My body is tired, my mind is tired, my family is tired, and my husband in the back is tired. I no longer enjoy my life, and I wish this roller coaster would end. I want my life back, but will live with this illness for the rest of my life due to this vaccine. I will never be able to ride a roller coaster again, which is one of my favorite pastimes. I will never be able to go through an airport security line or any security line normally again. I will never be able to live a normal life again, what I am used to. I can't even have chocolate nor caffeine as I go into an arrangement of various arrhythmias. Before this vaccine, I was pretty healthy, active, and living my best life. Even being a full-figured woman, I was still healthy and active. Since this vaccine, my marriage is suffering, my child is suffering as I am unable to do basic everyday things that I used to. Will I even live to see my daughter grow up or even get married? Will my marriage withstand years of burdensome medical visits and bills that have overrun every single aspect of our family's life? I have lost my job due to constant absences due to my new disability. I lost my job 6 weeks ago. My regular income has now been replaced with mounting medical bills, doctor visits, pharmacy lines, and hospital stays. Please understand, I am not anti-vaccine. I am anti-COVID vaccine based solely on my own life experience. I am afraid to speak out, as I know I will be harassed, sent threats, and be ridiculed for speaking out about what happened to me. I don't care, bring it. I ask for your grace, mercy, support as I find my new normal and my family's new normal. I ask that you please put politics aside and listen to our stories. Hear us. Just because you got the vaccine and are okay doesn't mean that there are those of us who have not sustained lifelong debilitating health issues. For those who are suffering silently, I urge you to join me in telling your story. We can't change the events that led us here, but we can change where we go from here. This is the first time I am speaking out. I will no longer be silent. We will no longer be silent. We, the vaccine injured, will no longer be silent. You will see more of us. I urge you to stand up. I need your help to get justice for not only myself, but every single one of you and your families. Thank you.
Thank you, Lindsay, for sharing that very difficult story. Okay, we've got Jason Cullum from Christ Church here in Jacksonville.
Lindsay, just let me say, as someone sitting out here listening to you and talking to you beforehand, how nervous you were. Thank you for your courage. Thank you for sharing your story. No matter what anybody else says about you, this is your story and your experience. And so thank you for your courage. And Governor, I want to say thank you to you, something you may not even remember. Because back during the height of the pandemic, as a pastor, and pastors across this entire state were put in this situation where we were a loss for what to do. We lived in this tension every single day of what do we believe about what's been told to us on our TV screens or on our computer screens or on our phone screens? What do we do about being able to meet the needs as the heart of a pastor? Any church wants to love and support their people. And so we were caught in this tension of what to do. In those early days, you took an hour out of your week every single week to gather together on the phone with pastors and faith leaders from across this incredible state to be able to just, first and foremost, say, thank you. Thank you for what you were doing. And as faith leaders, to just hear our governor support us, and not just with lip service, but he provided access to his entire team, through the Surgeon General, through the Faith and Community Office, to be able to give us some direction, answer questions, and hear what we were going through on the front lines. Because many of us remember, and I don't want to take us back there very long, but we remember those days. Those days were not easy. In those early days, we were dealing with incredible losses. Loss of freedom, loss of normalcy, a loss of unity. We were dealing with losses that where weddings were being put on hold. Jobs were being transferred home or being lost. I had a son who was a senior in high school, lost his senior year, lost that graduation experience, that senior prom moment. And so we were dealing with incredible losses. But I was so grateful to know that behind me and all the other faith leaders across the state, we had a governor who was supporting the faith institutions. And so thank you. Thank you. Because as we all know, during that season, it was so easy to begin losing hope. It seemed like a hopeless situation. Every morning we woke up on unsteady ground, but we didn't know which way was up most days. And so it was so easy as we were watching things happen as a pastor, seeing what was happening in our community, seeing what was happening with the people in our church. I mean, we know the stats now afterwards, but we were dealing with a mental health crisis that we were unprepared for. We were dealing with addiction issues. We were dealing with marital issues. We're dealing with a young generation who were now thrust in the middle of this chaos as their world was turned upside down. And so hope was being lost. And so to be able to open our doors as a church and to be able to invite people in so they could have human contact and to be able to be reminded every single week of the hope that we have in Jesus Christ, we needed that. And so I was so grateful as a pastor to be able to open the doors. And I know pastors across the state echo the same sentiment, that we know in that season that the church was created to be a safe haven, a place where people can come together and be reminded of the hope that we have in Jesus Christ. And so I'm grateful that we have a state. I'm grateful for our leadership. I'm grateful for our governor that believes in faith institutions. And it's not just lip service. He puts it in practice. And so we are able to serve our people and lead our people through an unprecedented time and continue to lift up hope, because that is what the local church is all about. It is about hope. And so thank you, Governor, for allowing us to be able to do that. Thank you for allowing us to be able to support our community and meet those needs in real time and not have to do it through Zoom. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, you had across the country, there were states closing churches. And then even in Florida in those early days, some of the local governments going after churches. So I did an executive order say you have a right to worship. Local government can't take that away from you. I mean, come on. So I want to thank everybody who's come. And I also just think that seeing how people are inching towards this insanity again, we should look back at starting in March of 2020 and then look at some of the problems in our country now. And a lot of those problems trace back to how the country handled COVID starting in March of 2020. I mean, just think of our insolvency as a country. Starting March of 2020, they added $2.2 trillion in March of 2020, another $2.2 trillion to the debt in December of 2020. Then Biden did another $2 trillion in March of 2021, and then he did other. So you're talking about $6-7 trillion that did not need to be added to the debt that have been added to the debt. So now we're 32+ trillion in debt when we should be a lot less. Like in Florida, since I've been governor, we've paid down 25% of our state's debt. So it's fiscally, I think, has been a total catastrophe about how the federal government responded. And then when you borrow and print that much money, it is going to lead to inflation. That's just economics 101. The idea that you can just print yourself to prosperity with no ramifications is ridiculous. Of course that was going to happen. So everything people have seen over these last couple years all goes back to those decisions to crank the printing presses, borrow and spend untold trillions of dollars. I mean, it took this country 200 years to rack up $6 trillion in debt. And yet, just since COVID, there's been another $6 trillion, and more probably now, since then. And then just think about how that's affected families. It's actually been fine for the people in and around D.C. They do very well when you have the debt and all this stuff. You have five of the 8 wealthiest counties in our country are suburbs of Washington, D.C. now. So, why are they that way? It's because the political connection and all the money that's thrown around. But what has that meant for people outside of that? I mean, it's meant that buying a home is unaffordable for a lot of families now. Buying a car is unaffordable. Even the groceries, you got to go and you got to make decisions about what you can even put in or not because of how expensive it is. And then now you've got gas going up, probably going to end up hitting $4 a gallon soon. It's, it's between, in parts of Florida, it's $3.50, $3.60 I'm seeing, probably even higher in some other parts. Other states, it's probably already over $4. Now Biden's closing off Alaska for oil production. So you're putting us on a pathway where people are going to be paying $4, $5, $6 a gallon for gas. How is that helping people be able to make ends meet? So there's a lot of things that have really, I think the whole COVID experience in Florida, we were obviously a counterweight to this, but overall in our country, it was like the biggest transfer of wealth from small businesses and working Americans to the government and some big companies like Amazon and Facebook. That is not good policy. That is not what you want to do. So we've got to just be honest about some of the cataclysmic mistakes that were made in this country, and we cannot allow this to unfold again. So, it may just be, just one district is imposing mask mandates. Why in Florida we're protected? Why should we care? We care because it's wrong. We care because we want people to be able to live a good life. And as we see this stuff being orchestrated, trying to shove down people's throats, there needs to be pushback, because there wasn't pushback back in March of 2020. I can tell you, as somebody that pushed back, I was on an island. I didn't have a lot of people support me. I certainly didn't have, the bureaucracy, the media, the left, the Democrats, but even a lot of Republicans were attacking me, at the time. That's fine. I mean, my job as a leader is to do what's right. But there were a lot of people that I think wish that they would have spoke up sooner. And so now we're going to speak up. If they try coming for you on any of this stuff in the state of Florida, you are protected, and so you don't have to worry about it. But if you're in another jurisdiction, do not comply with this nonsense. Stand up for your rights and stand up for yourself. All righty. Well, thank you, everybody. I'll take a couple questions. We got any back there in the back? Yes, sir. I have no insight about that. I think, as you guys know, those are federal agencies. They're not anything that the state has control over or gets advance warning on any of the stuff that they do. So I saw the report, but I don't know anything beyond that. Yes. What service? Okay, thank you for your service. So first of all, I did not allow anything with that. Well, listen, excuse me. I'm not going to let you accuse me of committing criminal activity. I am not going to take that. I am not going to take that. So you want to have a civil conversation, that's one thing. Try to say that I'm that guy was Baker acted. He should have been ruled ineligible, but they didn't involuntarily commit him. and so they weren't. No, I don't. No. There is the truth. There is something about the truth. It's not everyone doesn't have their own truth. No. You don't get to come here and blame me for some madman. That is not appropriate, and I'm not going to accept it. Yeah. Oh, that is nonsense. That is such nonsense. We've done more to support law enforcement in this state than anybody throughout the United States. Our crime rate in Florida is at a 50-year low. We have enacted policies so that people have a chance to live in safety. We have attracted people to come to this state in large part because we've had a commitment to public safety. So the notion that somehow we're not supportive of safety is absurd. And we've put our money where our mouth is. We've put support behind policies to hold people accountable who hurt other people. You haven't seen us releasing people from prison. When they hurt, when you do the crime, you do the time. Yes. Well, look, I think that, some of the issues that we're talking about here, I mean, Tia, when she was talking about what she was doing, standing up for her kids, she was attacked because somehow she can't have that position based on how she looks. That is wrong to say that. You treat people as individuals. You want to lift people up as individuals, and that's how people should be judged. And on these issues, on all this, you know who the mandates hurt the most? It did not hurt the rich laptop class. They liked working in their pajamas, right? It hurts people who had to actually show up to work in order to earn that paycheck. And those are the people we stood up for in Florida when nobody was willing to do it. So doing what's right and doing what's best for folks to be able to make the most of their God-given ability, that's what we stand for, and that's what we've got to do. Yes, ma'am, one more. Oh, no, so that's a great question. So what would Florida need to do to protect? First of all, yes, we did do executive orders early on to protect people, but we have worked with the legislature to enact these protections into law. So it's law in the state of Florida. It doesn't matter. It's law in the state of Florida that kids can go to school. The school cannot force your kid to wear a mask during school. I mean, that's just the right thing to do. So that's a parent's choice. We had to fight. Tia mentioned how they defied us on the Parents' Bill of Rights. We signed that, and then we said, I did an order saying, that means that parents determine the mask or not mask. So we went to court, we won that, and everything's fine. The vaccine mandates. There are no vaccine mandates allowed in the state of Florida. Not in your job, not in corporations, not for schools, for COVID vaccines. None of that. That's in law. You don't have to worry about that. Businesses protected against local government overreach. I did do executive orders to protect them under the time, but that's done to protect now going forward. So these are really strong protections. I think we're the only state in the country that has the protections for school children, protections against the COVID vax mandates, protections for small businesses, and the ban of gain-of-function research. We're the only state in the country that has done all of that, the whole kit and caboodle. So I'm really excited. What's that? We can get in them. Yes, yeah, exactly, yeah. No. I didn't even see you. Good, yes. Yeah, but these are things that, with like the nursing homes, This was a huge problem in Florida because we have almost 4,000 long-term care facilities. And when COVID started, we said you're not allowed to send sick patients into those nursing homes. New York was doing the opposite. They were sending sick patients from hospitals into nursing homes. It was spreading, and a lot of the elderly were dying. So we tried to, we did protections, and it was good. But, and Mary's here, it's one thing to do that for a short period of time, but you have to provide this human connection. So we were the first state in the country, to mandate the visitation for these long-term care facilities, and that's something that's important. And then we really pushed the hospitals to do the same thing. Eventually, we actually had to do legislation, the No Patient Left Behind Act. So in Florida, you have a right to visit your loved ones in the hospital, especially when they have these, really sensitive moments, end-of-life moments. Very, very important. And to say that you can just put someone up on an iPad screen and that's going to be the same, it is not the same. And so we recognize that very early. The legislature, fortunately, with the hospitals, provided that type of support, and it's made a lot of difference in a lot of people's lives to be able to be there for those moments. So the bottom line is, on all of this, we have protected and mandated that freedom prevail in the free state of Florida. Thanks, everybody. God bless. Okay, yeah. One more.
Hey guys, I want to say one more thing, because it's something that's really frustrated me. The gentleman that was speaking a moment ago, what he was saying. I mean, what happened here was tragic, and unfortunately, the gentleman was obviously. Pardon me, I shouldn't call him a gentleman. He was obviously crazy, right? He's completely disconnected, and he was insane. He was insane. And first of all, there's politics with trying to connect that. I mean, that's just totally crazy, as the governor was saying. But secondly, what's bothered me, and I feel, Governor DeSantis, he's a good man. My wife and I would never have left our state of California to come to this state if he wasn't a good man. And if we didn't feel that and know that, and he is. And it's terrible that people take advantage of the fact that he's a different color from the poor victims of that tragedy to try and tie him into something. It's immoral, and unfortunately it's reflective of what we've been seeing for many years, but certainly during the pandemic, where people hide reality and they spin it and they try and make you buy what they're trying to sell you. And it's not true. It's a total lie. And they try and take advantage of the governor just because he's not the same color as these people. He has a wonderful heart. He has a wonderful heart. And it's terrible that they do that, and it's terrible that they get away with it so often just because he's not the same color as the people who were harmed. So that's the truth. That's the truth.